Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down my top QB plays for this Week 11 NFL DFS slate on DraftKings. Before we get into it, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos. That would be greatly appreciated. I'll be here all NFL season long, breaking down these slates to help you become better NFL DFS players. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down my top QB plays for this Week 11 DFS slate. Going to go one by one with these guys. This is the list that I've narrowed it down to, and I've got to sort it by salary. So we'll start at the upper tier of the guys that I'm playing and work our way down. The first guy that I have interest in this week is Mr. Justin Herbert, coming out at a 6.8K price tag on DraftKings. He gets to take on the New York Jets this week. This team comes in with an implied total of 27.75 on my spreadsheet. 9.5-point favorites. And the matchup is definitely in his favor. Taking on the Jets. The Jets have been the fourth best team to target in terms of QBs and DK points given up a game. 23.2 or 22.1 DK points given up a game, and giving it up, through the air and on the ground is the thing. So if you're looking at my rushing category, they've been giving up the rushing TDs, the QBs. They've been giving it up through the air. They've been giving it up all over the place. So I definitely have interest in Justin Herbert with the matchup. And then when you're looking at his stats this season, you can see that he's got 37.6 pass attempts per game. So you love to see that. A lot of volume going on. A 106.2 true passer rating. The protection rate from his O-line hasn't been the greatest, so that's a little bit unfortunate, of course. But then again, you look at his pressure completion percentage at 52.3%, and he's been able to perform when the pressure's on, so to speak. So I like that. And what I really like is the deep ball attempts. 41 deep ball attempts this year, and a 43.9 deep ball completion percentage. So, yeah, Justin Herbert looking real good in my projections. Love him. I love him. I love his value. I love the projection in my model, and I just love everything about his matchup. And then, of course, don't forget the large team total that these Chargers have this week. They're expected to put up a lot of points, and for good reason. The Jets have been bad all season long, and when looking at Herbert's game log, it's not like he's had a really big game since Game 7 against the Jags. So I definitely like Herbert in the spot. I think that his last 3 games only, 20 points or so, maybe can lower his ownership. I don't know. I hope that's the case. Maybe not. But people do tend to look at game logs, and I'm always looking to play guys that have had, not outstanding numbers as of late. Because I do think that naturally their ownership is lower because people come in, they look at the game logs, and they make decisions based off of that. They rely on recency, recent performance, and there's some recency bias implied there. So definitely have interest in Justin Herbert. Ben Roethlisberger, second guy on my list, comes in at 6.7 this week, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Projected to score 28 points as a team. And he has a great big play rating in my model, 1.14 big play rating, so I love to see that because these Jags have been giving up a lot through the air. Looking at my QB matchup chart, they are the fourth best team or third best team to target in terms of QBs, giving up a lot through the air, giving up on the ground, and giving up 23.3 DK points a game to QBs. So I love to see that. I'm looking at Big Ben and his stats. You can see that he's got a 37.1 pass attempts per game, a 104.5 true passer rating. You'd like to see that. 91.5 protection rate from the O-line, a great O-line. Has been giving him plenty of time to throw, and a 57.4% pressured completion percentage when he is pressured. So, Big Ben looking real good. 43 deep ball attempts on the year and 47 red zone attempts. So he's getting work in the red zone. He's going deep a lot. He's got the weapons to stack it up with. And that's the other thing that we're, of course, having to look at is we want to pick the QBs and based on their matchup, but then also they need the weapons, of course, to perform so that we can stack them up in tournaments. And we want the target share to be condensed. We want to know who we're going to. And Big Ben's got kind of all the above in this matchup this week. He put up 32 points last week against Cincy, 28 against Dallas the week before. And I think he can keep it rolling this week for sure. And, of course, when looking at his weapons on the outside, that's when it gets even better for me because I think that the target share on this offense is just so condensed. You got the 3 guys in Juju Smith-Schuster, Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and then you got Eric Ebron. So, I will be breaking these guys down one by one in my wide receiver video. So look for that to be released as well. But, I got to talk about who I'm stacking these QBs up with, and I just love the target share in this offense. Very simple. And then, of course, Similar, I would say similar with Herbert. Stacking him up with a Keenan Allen is something I failed to mention in the previous QB, but love to see that. This next guy that I want to talk about, Matt Ryan. I have a lot of interest in this Atlanta Falcons New Orleans Saints game this week, mainly because of the pace that I'm looking and projecting for it to go. I have 68 projected snaps in my model right now. A very high paced game, in my opinion, or there's going to be a lot of snaps throughout. There's going to be a lot of plays, and you like to see that is what I'm trying to get at here. The pace is going to be up. The points are up. The total's up to a 49.5 line right now and climbing. So I love to see that. And I've just got Matt Ryan projected to be involved a lot. And while the matchup isn't exactly the greatest, it's definitely not bad. I mean, the Saints are the 13th best team to target in terms of QBs. I'm not all that intimidated by the secondary. It's not like they're, the Falcons or the Jags, top three teams to target, or the Jets, like some of these top three teams that I have here, but I don't care. Still a great matchup. And specifically when looking at Matt Ryan's volume this year, we can see that he has been throwing the ball quite a bit, 39 pass attempts per game. He's got a pretty decent true passer rating. Protection rate's been there, 83.9 protection rate. 41.9 pressured completion percentage. Air yards is what really sticks out, though. I mean, this guy, 5.1 air yards per attempt and 200 air yards per game. So Matt Ryan having to throw the ball a lot, having a lot of air yards per game. You love to see that, of course. And a lot of deep ball attempts. 44 deep ball attempts, 47.7 deep ball completion percentage. Love to see all of that stuff. And yeah, all of the stuff kind of aligns for Matt Ryan to go off in this game. I love this game. I love both sides of it. We're going to talk about the most obvious value play of the week at QB next, but got to start with Matt Ryan here. And 23, 18, 21 fantasy points the last 3 weeks, not exactly going to blow you away. However, I like to think that we're going to see that explode and be more of a 34-point performance, such as the one we saw in Week 6 against the Vikings. I definitely like Matt Ryan. And then, of course, when you're stacking him up, who you're looking to stack him up with in this game, as far as his threats, it all starts with Julio Jones, of course. Calvin Ridley is going to be in this week, so I like both of those guys. I mean, this stack is going to be expensive, but for good reason. And I definitely like Hayden Hurst as well at the tight end position. I think he could possibly be one of the best tight end plays on the slate this week. So all the stars are aligning for a nice Matt Ryan, Atlanta Falcons stack. So I like him this week. Moving further along, Carson Wentz. When we get down to these next few options, as I'm breaking down these QBs, I understand not all these guys are cash plays. I want to break down guys in multiple price tiers. I want to give you reasons as to play them, and I want to give you some contrarian plays. I can't break down everyone that I love in my model all in this video. If you want access to my entire model, you can see the value, you can see the guys, the DK points, DK snap, go over all the stats that I'm going over. I'm giving you guys a sneak peek throughout the video. You can see it all linked in the description. Check out my Patreon package, but I'm trying to give you guys good plays in multiple price tiers and some reasoning and some leverage plays and all that fun stuff. So just not to rant, but I want you to know that it's not going to be all the 100% guarantee all in plays. We want to get contrarian in tournaments, and I want to cover some contrarian plays. So Carson Wentz next on the list, taking on the Cleveland Browns. Looking at my QB matchup chart, and the Browns, they are the 9th best team to target in terms of QBs. Giving up some on the ground, giving up some to the air. You like to see that. Carson get out and run a little bit. And when looking at his stats, you can see that he has 38.1 pass attempts per game. You like to see that. True passer rating's looking a little rough. The protection rate's not the best. Air yards per game is pretty decent. And then deep ball attempts, 44. So he has been throwing it deep a lot. And then in red zone work, he's getting a decent amount. So, not grading out to be the best QB as far as true passer rating and accuracy rating this year. But I do think that this is a matchup where he can excel, and I do think that the target share is going to be pretty condensed in this offense, which makes me like it even more. With some injuries in this Eagles offense, I do think it's going to be condensed. Target share, Dallas Goedert, definitely an option at the tight end position. With Zach Ertz out, you got Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor. I like him at his price tag. I think he's still too underpriced. I've talked about him the last 2 weeks, but I think the same rule applies. He's underpriced. And then we saw a price drop on Travis Fulgham with Alshon Jeffrey back and stuff. He saw 5 targets last week, not really quite as involved as we saw the last 3 weeks, 10, 11, and 7 targets, but I think that we can see him bounce back and his price dropped. So Those are the guys that I'm looking up to stack up with Carson. I do think that he's contrarian. I do think he's going to have a good matchup, and I do think there's some condensed target share on top of the deep ball attempts. We always like to see that. We're looking for upside in these terms. You want the quarterback to be throwing deep, and all of the above applies in this particular case. So I like Carson Wentz. Moving further along, the next guy I want to talk about is Joe Burrow on my list. Comes in at 5,500 this week on DraftKings, taking on this Washington football team. Unfortunately, when you look at my matchup chart, the Washington football team is not really the best team to target, 22nd best team to target, really doing a great job of limiting QBs through the air. However, they have struggled on the ground. They're giving up a lot of running stats to QBs, and specifically the reason that I like Joe Burrow this week really comes down to his price tag and the volume I'm expecting him to get. I have this projected for a 60. I have him projected for 68 total snaps. I think this is another one of those games that's going to move fast. He's a very good value in my model this week. 19.21 DK points I got him projected for. The over/under isn't the best, but I do think that he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. When looking at his stats throughout the year, we can see that he has been throwing the ball on average 41.1 times, a lot more than any of the other guys that I have discussed so far. So you got to love to see that. And I definitely have interest in Joe Burrow this week. 85.5 true passer rating, 7.5 accuracy rating, 163.9 air yards per game. That's very good. 40 deep ball attempts and 52 red zone attempts. So he's getting a lot of action in the red zone as well. So you always like to see that. And I do think that we know who we're pairing him up with when looking at his weapons in this offense. And some of those guys he could be targeting in the red zone. With that high volume. You got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green, those three wideouts, and then Drew Sample at the tight end position could be a sneaky play. I mean, probably not going to go there when looking at his target share, very low. But, of course, you're looking to stack in tournaments, and he could be sneaky. But I'm really looking to go to T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. They're priced according to their target share, 9 targets, 5 targets, 8 targets. Very consistent from T. Higgins, very consistent from Tyler Boyd. Looking at his target share, 8, 7, 13, 8. So, those are the guys you're looking to stack up with Joe Burrow, and I definitely think that he's a viable option this week. Going to get a lot of volume in this offense. Have interest in him. Really comes down to his price tag in the volume, and I definitely do have interest. Next guy that I want to talk about is Taysom Hill. The most obvious play on the slate this week. I mean, when the news was announced that it's not going to be Jameis Winston, it's going to be Taysom Hill. He opened up value at only 4,800 in the starting QB position, taking on this Atlanta Falcons team who's been very dreadful against the QB, the second best team to target in terms of DK points given up a game to QBs, struggling at limiting stats on the ground, struggling at limiting stats in the air. And that's just great for a guy that can run, a very athletic quarterback, and even someone who may struggle throwing the ball compared to an elite QB in the league. He gets the matchup because the Falcons have just struggled. So it doesn't get much better. The price tag is not adjusted for his role. The matchup is great. The pace is great. I already discussed I love this game. I got him projected for 68 snaps in the week. The big play rating, best big play rating on the screen, 1.16 in my model. I love the spot, really. There's nothing not to like. It might be chalky, but I mean, it's going to be chalky for a reason. There's good chalk and there's bad chalk in daily fantasy sports. If you don't know what chalk means, it just means the guy's going to be popular. He's going to have a high ownership, which we don't always want high ownership, but I mean, in this case, it just makes sense. Sometimes you can't get too cute, and I think fading Taysom Hill completely is getting a little too cute with the matchup. Giving up stats on the ground, giving up stats through the air. This Atlanta Falcons team, it just all matches up. And when you factor in how cheap he is, you gotta love it. And then you factor in the weapons that he has on the outside. You know where the ball is going. I think Michael Thomas, first guy that we got to talk about. Probably he's my first stacking option, of course. Set 5 targets, 6 targets, and 7 targets. Hasn't really had a big week. I think that Hill, a guy that's coming in and taking over at QB, could be targeting him a lot. He knows the talent that he has. And then don't forget about Alvin Kamara, of course, a catching back, a guy that can excel out of the backfield, a receiving back, I should say. excels at getting stats through the air, excels at getting stats on the ground. 8 targets, 6 targets, 13 targets in a PPR format on DraftKings. You got to love to see those targets and the upside possibility for him. And then don't forget about the tight end and Jared Cook, because Jared Cook's definitely a guy that can get down the field. He's an athletic tight end, and he's going to get the volume in the red zone as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, I love that game. I love everything about it. I love the fact that Taysom Hill is so cheap. Everyone's going to love him. He's going to be chalky, of course, but it all makes sense. I am giving you the full go as far as playing him this week. Feel confident about it, and then being able to throw in those higher price guys in other positions. So I do like him at QB this week. So those are my favorite QB plays for tournaments for this NFL DFS Week 11 slate on DraftKings. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future content that I upload. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video where I'm going to start breaking down running backs. Don't forget to check out my Patreon package, linked below in the description if you're interested in getting all my projections, all my models, all my sheets, all that good stuff. We will see you guys when we start breaking down running backs.